O Mahamune, O great sage, Tvam Mata Vipretameva Chikirshasi, you wish to do what I want. Sarvam Tyaktva Mad Bhajanasya Maya Eva Kartavyattvena Proktatvad. Because it is said that, it is said by me that one should give up everything and simply engage in my devotional service as the only duty. Ityaha. With this in mind, he speaks. He Nishitam. Maya yat proktam. Sarvadharman parityajya ityadi Gitopanishad adhibihi taddeva lokasya pramanam. I have certainly said in statements such as in Gitopanishad, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vrada, that one should give up everything and engage in devotional service to me. That itself is evidence for the world. Kwa satya laukike sati sarvottame alaukike. What is this satya laukike? Satya laukike means ordinary speech. Oh, here he is splitting it as Sati Alaukike. Sati Alaukike. Alaukike Sati. Sarvottame Alaukike. Which would then imply that these are all duties which are meant to be executed. These are supreme duties that are meant to be executed. Where is Anvaya? Anvaya is taking it as Satye and Laukike. Cha. Satya Laukike, Satye, Vaidike, Laukike, Cha, Kritye. The Anuvad also he is saying, Vaidike evam Laukik Kritye, Amar Ukti Loker Praman Swarup Yathake. So corresponding to all transcendental endeavors, this is the highest evidence. Ayam artha, this is the meaning. Loke bhavaha, laukikaha, trivarga pratya lakshanaha dharmaha, tatra manvadibhir api proktam pramanam. With regards to attaining laukika benefits, worldly benefits, characterized as trivarga, dharma, artha, kama. This is ordinary dharma. And for this, the evidence is what has been stated by Manu and the other authors of Dharma Shastras. Alaukikaha tad bhinnaha. But the otherworldly endeavors are distinct from them. Mat prapti lakshanaha yo dharmaha. So then there is another type of dharma which is characterized by the pursuit of attaining me. Tatra sati sarvottama bhagavata dharme maya proktameva lokasya pramanam. So with regards to that, attaining the highest goal or the highest means in the form of Bhagavata Dharma, what I myself am giving, the instruction that I myself am giving itself is the evidence for the world. Yaduktam, as it is been stated, 11.2.33, Ye vai bhagavata prokta upaya atmalabdhaye iti. In the 11th canto, it will be pointed out, there will be a definition of Bhagavata Dharma given. The definition will be those dharmas which are directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu himself, by which one can attain him, and which even the unintelligent can very easily put into practice with effect. They are known as Bhagavata Dharma. That will be stated in 11.2.33. So Chakravarti Thakur is referring to that. Ataha tvaya sadhu vicharitam yat sarvam tyaktva yami iti bhavaha. So the implication is You have nicely deliberated that you will give up everything and go. Swa-uktasya pravanyam abhidarshayati. He then uh, points out uh, the authoritativeness of what he has stated. Atha, no, atha eva maya ajani yatubhyam tau putraha bhavishyami iti avocham tad ritam satyameva. So I told you that I will become your son. That is true. That promise is true. Therefore, I took birth as your son. Kardamuni was to leave his family life to completely engage in the service of the Lord. But since he knew that the Lord himself as Kapila had taken birth in his home as his own son, why was he preparing to leave home to search out self-realization or God realization? God himself was present in his home. Why should he leave home? Such a question may certainly arise. But here it is said that whatever is spoken in the Vedas and whatever is practiced in accordance with the injunctions of the Vedas is to be accepted as authoritative in society. This is Swami's explanation. Satyalokike, Vaidike, Laukike, Chakritye. Is to be accepted as authoritative in society. So Veda means Vedas refer to the four Vedas in this interpretation. And what is practiced in accordance with the injunctions of the Vedas refers to Dharma Shastras. Smriti. Smriti which follows Shruti. Vedic authority says that a householder must leave home after his 50th year. Panchashordham vanam vrajet. There is a parallel statement. Urdhva panchashaha vanam vrajet. One must leave his family life and enter the forest after the age of 50. This is an authoritative statement of the Vedas, based on the division of social life into four departments of activity: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Kardama Muni practiced yoga very rigidly as a brahmachari before his marriage, and he became so powerful and attained so much mystic power that his father, Brahma, ordered him to marry and beget children as a householder. Kardama Muni did so. He begot 9 good daughters and 1 son, Kapila Muni. 9 plus 1, 10. And thus his household duty was also performed nicely. And now his duty was to leave. Even though he had the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a son, he had to respect the authority of the Vedas. This is a very important lesson. Even if one has God in his home as a son, one should still follow the Vedic injunctions. It is stated, Mahajano yena gatassa pantha. One should traverse a path which is followed by great personalities. In this respect, the Vedic tradition is quite different from other religious traditions. In other religious traditions, it is some prophet, messiah who is the overriding authority. In the Vedic tradition, all bona fide Vedic traditions have the Vedas as the highest authority. The prophet or messiah or acharya, whoever you say, he will be glorified for helping you understand the Vedas. So it is the Veda which will always be the supreme authority. Between Guru, previous sadhus, and Shastra. Shastra is the highest authority. That does not mean that the previous acharyas are to be neglected even partially, or that the instructions of the Guru, when they are in line with the previous acharyas and Shastra, are to be neglected even partially. But rather, the foundational authority is the Veda. It is not that we accept 3 authorities. Independent of Vedic Shastra, we have no interest in previous acharyas or even the bona fide spiritual master. We are not interested in the bona fide spiritual master because he is so nice to me, he is so kind, such a nice. We are not interested in any of the acharyas in the sadhu parampara because they are independently great. First of all, they are not independently great. They are great by Krishna's greatness. So this way of understanding requires some intellectual maturity. That we accept Guru and Sadhu and Shastra. Sadhu is more important than Guru. Shastra is more important than Sadhu. That because usually we go to extremes. Either we accept a Guru absolutely brainlessly, or we reject Guru absolutely brainlessly. Not like that. All 3 are meant to be accepted, but Shastra is the highest. That requires training. That requires submissive association with those who have accepted such principles. Even with Prabhupada, we see uh, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ordered that a snake be killed, Prabhupada was seeing it. He was in Chaitanya Math. He was a householder. And he had this question in his mind, how Guru Maharaj can say kill an animal? Because scripture says, Ma himsyat sarva bhutani, should not harm any living creature. And then later on in Bhagavatam, when he read 7th canto, Modeta sadhurapi vrishika sarpa hatya. Even a sadhu is very happy when a scorpion or a snake is killed. Then he accepted, okay. So it is said in Shastra, my Guru Maharaj is perfect. So it is always Shastra based Guru Bhakti, not Guru based Shastra Bhakti. That is tamasic. We accept the previous acharyas because of Shastra, and we accept the Guru because he is following previous acharyas. So that requires some uh, mature understanding how to put things together. Kardama Muni's example is very instructive. For in spite of having the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, he left home just to obey the authority of the Vedic injunction. Kardama Muni states here the main purpose of his leaving home. While traveling all over the world as a mendicant, he would always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart and thereby be freed from all the anxieties of material existence. In this age of Kali Yuga, sannyas is prohibited because persons in this age are all Shudras and cannot follow the rules and regulations of sannyas life. It is very commonly found that so-called sannyasis are addicted to nonsense, even to having private relationships with women. This is the abominable situation in this age. Although they dress themselves as sannyasis, they still cannot free themselves from the four principles of sinful life, namely illicit sex life, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. Since they are not freed from these four principles, they are cheating the public by posing as swamis. In Kali Yuga, the injunction is that no one should accept sannyas. So that's a general principle. Of course, those who actually follow the rules and regulations must take sannyas. That is an exception. Generally, however, people are unable to accept sannyas life, and therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stressed, Kalau nastyeva 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 gatiranyatha. In this age, there is no other alternative, no other alternative, no other alternative than to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. The main purpose of sannyas life is to be in constant companionship with the Supreme Lord, either by thinking of Him within the heart or hearing of Him through oral reception. Oral reception. In this age, hearing is more important than thinking because one's thinking may be disturbed by mental agitation, but if one concentrates on hearing, he will be forced to associate with the sound vibration of Krishna. Krishna and the sound vibration Krishna are non-different. So if one loudly vibrates Hare Krishna, he will be able to think of Krishna immediately. This process of chanting is the best process of self-realization in this age. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya preached it so nicely for the benefit of all humanity. And also, anyway, according to the scriptures, Vaishnava sannyasis. This will naturally apply to the Naishtika brahmacharis who are expected to be unofficial sannyasis. To maintain their Brihad Vrata, they are expected to chant Vishnu mantras. Mantras containing Lord Vishnu's names, or Hare Krishna mantra is exceptional in that the entire mantra is just his names. And these mantras are expected to be chanted lakhs of times because otherwise you cannot maintain Brihad Vrata. So it is commonly understood. In the Madhva line, they understand it. Ramanuja line, King Kulashekara in his prayers, he says, if a sannyasi wants to maintain his vows, he should chant Om Namo Narayana. Otherwise, he will not be able to, he will become frightened. Sannyasi is not supposed to be frightened, no? Supposed to have firm faith that Lord Narayana will take care of him. So therefore, Prabhupada stresses here the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 36. Etanme janma lokesmin mukshunam durashayat prasankhyanaya prasankhyanaya tattvanam sam sammataya आत्मदर्शने एतत् मे जन्म लोके अस्मिन् मुक्षूणां दुराशयात् परसंख्यानाय तत्त्वानां सम्मताय आत्मदर्शने. My appearance in this world is especially to explain the philosophy of Sankhya, which is highly esteemed for self-realization by those desiring freedom from the entanglement of unnecessary material desires. It is commonly understood in India that what is considered jnana is Vishaya Bhoga Dosha Darshana. to understand what is wrong with the contact of senses and sense objects is called jnana, knowledge. This is accepted in the jnana school, yoga school, bhakti school also. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukha doshana darshana. So, like Sri Jaitirtha says, knowledge is not simply counting how many sand dunes are there in the Ganga. So, it is not simply getting to know what all things are there as part of this world. That is knowledge. That is irrelevant knowledge. Relevant knowledge is to understand the nature of the sufferings of the material world and how to get out of these sufferings. Just like a person imprisoned in prison, for him, relevant knowledge is to understand what he should do to legally get out of the jail. Therefore, this mumukshuna, by those great sages seeking liberation, by those desiring freedom from the entanglement of unnecessary material desires, is considered most relevant. Swavatara prayojanam gyapayati. Now he informs about the purpose of his descent. Durashaya, dushta linga sharirat, mukshunam, atmadarshane, सम्मताय तत्त्वानां प्रसंख्यानाय विद्धि इति उत्तरस्य अनुषङ्गः. So Lord Kapila is saying you should understand that I have appeared in order to explain the nature of the various elements. Atmadarshane sammataya. And that is approved for self-realization for the sage, for those who are seeking liberation from the subtle body, which itself is evil. So we certainly do not propose listen to your heart. Never listen to your heart. It's most dangerous. It is evil. Subtle body is evil. Gross body is also evil. In modern India, they asked why we are so ashamed of unrestricted sense enjoyment. Because unrestricted sense enjoyment gives you unrestricted miseries. Therefore, it has always been criticized traditionally. Avyaktaha, sukshmaha. What is this? Ishware, dehadehi vibhaga bhave api buddhihi hi bhagavati abhede api bhedam janayati iti nyayena deham maya bhritam iti lokaritya iva uktaha. What is this? This must be next. It's 37 actually. So it's actually it looks like 36 and 37. Okay, we'll come to that. Okay, there's a question here. Yes.
So you mentioned that in Kali Yuga, sannyasa generally is not acceptable. But if we follow strictly, then sannyasa is accepted. That means what? I did not get.
Well, in general, sannyas is dangerous, but as an exception, sannyas is safe.
So generally means we have to follow the rules and regulations anyway.
But
Like
those who are incapable should not become enthusiastic for it. That's the whole point. But those who are capable must endeavor for it.
No, means in Kali Yuga it is specifically not generally recommended. That means what? In other yugas it is acceptable.
In other yugas, it is generally recommended.
Because of?
Because they're capable. Only if you're capable, you'll be born as a human being in Dwapar Yuga, in Treta Yuga, and Satya Yuga. In Kali Yuga, if you are half animal, you are given a human body.
Oh, okay, bro.
Okay, let's move on. 36. Etan me janmalokesmin. What? No, it didn't. Purport. Here the word durashayat is very significant. Durashayat. From unnecessary material desires. Dur refers to trouble or dukkha, miseries. Ashayat means from the shelter. We conditioned souls have taken shelter of the material body, which is full of troubles and miseries. Foolish people cannot understand the situation. So Prabhupada is then interpreting this that both the linga and the gross bodies are dushta. Foolish people cannot understand the situation, and this is called ignorance, illusion, or the spell of Maya. Human society should very seriously understand that the body itself is the source of all miserable life. Modern civilization is supposed to be making advancement in scientific knowledge, but what is this scientific knowledge? It is based on bodily comforts only, without knowing that however comfortably one maintains his body, the body is destructible. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Antavantaha ime deha. These bodies are destined to be destroyed. Nityasya uktaha sharirinaha refers to the living soul or the living spark within the body. So the shariri, the possessor of the body, is said to be nitya. Nityasya sharirinaha ime dehaha antavantaha iti uktaha refers to the living soul or the living spark within the body. That soul is eternal. But the body is not eternal. For our activity, we must have a body. Without a body, without sense organs, there is no activity. But people are not inquiring whether it is possible to have an eternal body. Actually, they aspire for an eternal body because even though they engage in sense enjoyment, that sense enjoyment is not eternal. Therefore, they are in want of something which they can enjoy eternally, but they do not understand how to attain that perfection. Sankhya philosophy, therefore, as stated herein by Kapila Deva, is Tattvana. Tattvana. It must be Tattvanam Prasankhyanam. The Sankhya philosophy is designed to afford understanding of the real truth. What is that real truth? The real truth is knowledge of how to get out of the material body, which is the source of all trouble. Lord Kapila's incarnation or descent is especially meant for this purpose. That is clearly stated here. 37. Esha atma patho vyakto nashtah kalena bhuyasa tam pravartayitam deham imam vidhim maya vritam. This path of self-realization, which is difficult to understand, has now been lost in the course of time. Please know that I have assumed this body of Kapila to introduce and explain this philosophy to human society again. Avyaktah, Sukshmaha, Avyaktah, difficult to know. This path of self-realization is difficult to understand. It is very fine. Ishware dehi deha vibhaga abhave api. Even though there is no distinction between the body and the soul for the Supreme Lord, buddhihi hi bhagavati abhede api. Even though the intelligence, okay, this is correctly typed. Wait, what is this verse? 37. 37. Buddhi bhagavati abhede api bhedam janayati iti nyaye. Okay. But the intelligence of the Lord is such that even though there is no distinction, he talks about a distinction. So, deham maya bhritam iti lokaritya eva uktihi. Therefore, following the custom of the world, he uses this idiomatic expression, I accepted this body. Sattvam rajastama iti nirgunasya gunastrayah titi sarga nirogeshi grihita mayaya vibhoho iti vad gyeya. This is similar to the statement that the Supreme Lord, even though he is the all-pervasive being and he is beyond the modes of material nature, through Maya, he has accepted the three gunas regarding for the purpose of maintenance, creation, and destruction. Through his Maya potency. So this statement, current statement of Lord Kapila is comparable to this. Where is this? This must be first canto statement. It is not true that Sankhya philosophy is a new system of philosophy introduced by Kapila, as material philosophers introduce new kinds of mental speculative thought to supersede that of another philosopher. On the material platform, everyone, especially the mental speculator, tries to be more prominent than others. The field of activity of the speculators is the mind. There's no limit to the different ways in which one can agitate the mind, and thus one can put forward an unlimited number of theories. Sankhya philosophy is not like that. It is not mental speculation. It is factual, but at the time of Kapila, it was lost. In due course of time, a particular type of knowledge may be lost or may be covered for the time being. That is the nature of this material world. A similar statement was made by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Sakale neha mahata yogo nashtaha. In course of time, the yoga system, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, was lost. It was coming in parampara and disciplic succession, but due to the passage of time, it was lost. The time factor is so pressing that in the course of time, everything within this material world is spoiled or lost. The yoga system of Bhagavad Gita was lost before the meeting of Krishna and Arjuna. Therefore, Krishna again enunciated the same ancient yoga system to Arjuna, who could actually understand Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, Kapila also said that the system of Sankhya philosophy was not exactly being introduced by him. It was already current, but in course of time, it was mysteriously lost. And therefore, he appeared to reintroduce it. That is the purpose of the incarnation of Godhead. Yada yada hi dharmasya glaner bhavati bharata. Dharma means the real occupation of the living entity. When there is a discrepancy in the eternal occupation of the living entity, the Lord comes and introduces the real occupation of life. Any so-called religious system that is not in the line of devotion service is called adharma samsthapana. Predominance or establishment of adharma. When people forget their eternal relationship with God and engage in something other than devotional service, their engagement is called irreligion. How one can get out of the miserable condition of material life is stated in Sankhya philosophy, and the Lord himself is explaining this sublime system. 38. Gachakama maya prishto mayi sanyasta karmana jitva sudur jayam mrityam amritattvaya mam bhaja. Gachakama maya aprishtaha mayi sanyasta karmana jitva sudur jayam mrityam amritattvaya mam bhaja. So sanyasta karmana. Now being sanctioned by me, go as you desire, surrendering all your activities to me, conquering insurmountable death, worship me for eternal life. Maya aprishtaha iti tvam gantum yatha mam aprishtavan. Tatha atra avasthatum maya api tvam aprishtaha iti arthaha. Maya aprishtaha literally means I take your permission. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that just as you have taken permission from me to leave this place, I am taking permission from you to stay here. Katham maya gacha iti nishthuram vaktavyam atra avasitasya api tava vanshitam setsiti eva iti bhavaha. How can I speak harsh? How can I speak harshly to you? Go away. Because what you desire to attain can be attained even when you stay here, even if you stay here. That is the implication. Tadapi gantumeva te manaha chet kamam gacha. But if you have a desire to leave, as you wish, you can go. Amritatvaya bhaja. Engage in devotion service for eternal life. Avidyaya mrityam tirtva vidyaya amritam ashnute iti shrute. Because the Shruti says, through avidya, having crossed over death, through vidya, attain eternal life. Yadva. Alternatively, amritatvaya, marana rahityaya, bhagavate. Amritatvaya refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, who is devoid of death. Ramakrishna aditvena janmavat mat parshadatam praptasya api tava mat sangitaya janmatu bhavishyati eva iti bhavaha. Just as with Rama and Krishna. Uh, though you have attained the status of being my associate, due to my association or in my association, you will have another Janma not in the material sense. So it implies that he's going to become an associate of Lord Kapila. The purpose of Sankhya philosophy is stated here. If anyone wants a real eternal life, he has to engage himself in devotional service or Krishna consciousness. To become free from birth and death is not an easy task. Birth and death are natural to this material body. Tudurjayam means very, very difficult to overcome. Tudurjayam mrityam jitva, having conquered insurmountable death. Conquering insurmountable death. The modern so-called scientists do not have sufficient means to understand the process of victory over birth and death. Therefore, they set aside the question of birth and death. They do not consider it. They simply engage in the problems of the material body, which is transient, temporary, and sure to end. Actually, human life is meant for conquering the insurmountable process of birth and death. This can be done as stated here. Mam bhaja. One must engage in the devotional service of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita also the Lord says, Manmana bhava mad bhakta. Just become my devotee. Just worship me. But foolish so-called scholars say that it is not Krishna whom we must worship and to whom we must surrender. It is something else. Without Krishna's mercy, therefore, no one can understand the Sankhya philosophy or any philosophy which is especially meant for liberation. Vedic knowledge confirms that one becomes entangled in this material life because of ignorance and that one can become free from material embarrassment by becoming situated in factual knowledge, material embarrassment. Prabhupada talks about this. He says, life in the material world is actually embarrassing. Sankhya means that factual knowledge by which one can get out of the material entanglement. 39. Mam atmanam swayam jyoti sarvabhuta bhashayam atmanyeva atmana vikshya vishoko bhayam rikshasi. In your own heart, through your intellect, you will always see me, the supreme self-effulgent soul, dwelling within the hearts of all living entities. Thus you will achieve the state of eternal life, free from all lamentation and fear. Atmanam. You will see me as the supreme soul or Paramatma. Me, the supreme self-effulgent soul. Here actually this S should be capital. Supreme soul, dwelling within the hearts of all living entities. Not like the individual soul which lives only in the heart of the body of one particular living entity. Atmanam. Kechit swadehantar hridayavakashe pradeshamatram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam ityadyukta prakaram antaryamanam. So here this Atma or this soul is actually the super soul described in Bhagavatam 2.2.8. There are some who worship that Purusha who is four-handed and who resides within the region of the heart, within their own bodies, and who is conceived of being of the size of Pradesha, a thumb. Ityaditya prakaram antaryaman twadishtadeva shuklam atmani swasmin atmana buddhya. So you will always see me. I am the super soul and I am your worshipable Lord Shukla. And you will see me within you when you utilize your intellect, through your intellect. People are very anxious to understand the absolute truth in various ways, especially by experiencing the Brahmajyoti or Brahman effulgence by meditation and by mental speculation. But Kapila Deva uses the word Mam to emphasize that the personality of Godhead is the ultimate feature of the absolute truth. In Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead always says Mam, unto me. But the rascals misinterpret the clear meaning. Mam is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he appears in different incarnations and understand that he has not assumed the material body but is present in his own eternal spiritual form, then one can understand the nature of the personality of God. Since the less intelligent cannot understand this point, it is stressed everywhere, again and again. Simply by seeing the form of the Lord as he presents himself by his own internal potency as Krishna or Rama or Kapila, one can directly see the Brahmajyoti, because the Brahmajyoti is no more than the effulgence of his bodily luster. Since the sunshine is the luster of the sun planet, by seeing the sun, one automatically sees the sunshine. Similarly, by seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one simultaneously sees and experiences the Paramatma feature, as well as the impersonal Brahman feature of the Supreme. The Bhagavatam has already enunciated that the absolute truth is present in three features. In the beginning as the impersonal Brahman, in the next stage as the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and at last as the ultimate realization of the absolute truth, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means he is initially realized as the impersonal Brahman. That means initially one realizes only the effulgence coming from the Supreme Lord. The next stage one realizes that effulgence and the source as Paramatma, who is all pervasive. And then finally one realizes that there is Bhagavan who has his own abode in the spiritual world. Paramatma is only present in the material world, but Bhagavan is present in the spiritual world. He has his own abode. Paramatma is connected to the conditioned souls. I am a conditioned soul engaged in this meditation, but Bhagavan has nothing to do with conditioned souls. So one realizes that the Lord exists for his own purpose, not that he exists for the conditioned souls. One who sees the Supreme Person can automatically realize the other features, namely the Paramatma and Brahman features of the Lord. The words used here are Vishoko Bhayam Richasi, Vishokaha Abhayam Richasi. Vishokaha, free from lamentation, you will achieve fearlessness. Simply by seeing the personality of Godhead, one realizes everything, and the result is that one becomes situated on the platform where there is no lamentation and no fear. This can be attained simply by devotion service to the personality of Godhead. 40. Matra adhyatmikim vidyam, shamanim sarvakarmanam, vitarishye ya cha sauvapayam chati tarishyati. I shall also describe this sublime knowledge, which is the door to spiritual life, to my mother, so that she also can attain perfection and self-realization, ending all reactions to fruitive activities. Thus, she also will be freed from all material fear. Putrasya mama ishwaratva kalatrasya devahutehi cha krite chinta na karya tyaha. Because the Supreme Lord is my son, mama putrasya ishwaratva kalatrasya devahutehi cha krite chinta na karya. I should not worry about my wife Devahuti. Mama 40, okay, wait.
Reading Prabhu in somewhere because no Kalatrasti is not there in this sloka itself.
No, it's just introduction to the verse. Putrasya mama ishwaratva. So he's reflecting the thought okay, this is what he wants to convey to Kardama. That you should think that because my son is the Supreme Lord, is Ishvara, I do not need to worry about my wife, Devahuti. Atre. With that in mind, he speaks text 40. Narada Muni was anxious about his good wife Devahuti while leaving home. Because in family life, a wife is many things, including a friend. So then one also thinks about how to do good as a friend to his wife. Narada Muni was anxious about his good wife Devahuti while leaving home, And so the worthy son promised that not only would Kardamani be freed from the material entanglement, but Devahuti would also be freed by receiving instruction from her son. So this is Lord Kapila's point that you go away happily and peacefully and don't bother about your wife. I'll take care. A very good example is that here. The husband goes away taking the sannyas order for self-realization, but his representative, the son, who is equally educated, remains at home to deliver the mother. This was Prabhupada's first plan. His first plan was to make sannyasis, and the ladies with their children can settle in Vrindavan. When that didn't work out, then he went next. Then he introduced marriage fees. Then when marriages didn't work out, then he again said sannyas. And one time he said, I don't know whether they're disturbed, so I'm telling them to marry, but they're disturbed, so they cannot stay married. They end up in divorce, this, that. And then he said, therefore, I'm telling them to become sannyasis. There also, if there are difficulties, I don't know what to say. A sannyasi is not supposed to take, okay, a sannyasi is not supposed to take his wife with him. So there's no sevadasi concept for sannyasi. You don't have a wife, you don't have a female servant, you don't take a massage from a woman, you don't do all these things. So just keep away. A sannyasi is not supposed to take his wife with him, wife or any female, and he's not supposed to be homo and no sexual activity. At the vanaprastha stage of retired life, or the stage midway between householder life and renounced life, one may keep his wife as an assistant without sex relations. Spiritual assistant. In joint vanaprastha life, husband and wife do not engage in kama, no sexual activity, and nor are they engaging in earning artha. So the activities of artha and kama are stopped. But the endeavor for dharma and moksha continues. The pious credits which lead to liberation, that is accepted. That is joint vanaprastha life. And there the wife becomes a spiritual assistant. One may keep his wife as an assistant without sex relations, but in the sannyas order of life, one cannot keep his wife with him. Otherwise, a person like Ardhamani could have kept his wife with him, and there would have been no hindrance to his prosecution of self-realization. Ardhamani followed the Vedic injunction that no one in sannyas life can have any kind of relationship with women. No Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, no damn, nothing, that's all. No sexual activity, and on top of it, no kind of relation, no affection. Just keep away. No. Smaranam, Kirtanam, Keli, Prakshanam, Gukyavashanam, whatever, all the 8. Just keep away. There's enough trouble we have in this world. But what is the position of a woman who is left by her husband? She is entrusted to the son. And the son promises that he will deliver his mother from entanglement. A woman is not supposed to take sannyas. So-called spiritual societies concocted in modern times give sannyas even to women, although there is no sanction in the Vedic literature for a woman's accepting sannyas. Otherwise, if it were sanctioned, Ardhamani could have taken his wife and given her sannyas. The woman must remain at home. She has only 3 stages of life. Man can have 4 stages of life: brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi. But a woman has her own 3 stages of life. Dependency on the father in childhood, dependency on the husband in youth, and in old age, dependency on the grown-up son, such as Kapila. So in Vedic Dharma, women are trained always. They're trained. You listen to your father first, then you listen to your husband, then you listen to your son. So he cannot say, I'm your mother. What? No, mother. You're a woman. You listen to your son after he's grown up. In old age, the progress of woman depends on the grown-up son. The ideal son, Kapila Muni, is assuring his father of the deliverance of his mother so that his father may go peacefully without anxiety for his good wife. 41. Maitreya Vacha. Evam samuditastena. Kapilena prajapati. Dakshini krityam prito vanam eva jagamaha. Sri Maitreya said, thus when Kapila Muni, the progenitor of human society, was spoken to in fullness by his son Kapila, he circumambulated him, and with a good pacified mind, he at once left for the forest. So it was a bit surprise for me, bit of a surprise for me when I learned that in the Lord's pastimes, the Lord's devotees literally do a pradakshina around him because we do it for the deities. And then only I realize what we do for the deity is actually a duplicate or a reflection of what actually is meant to be, we are meant to do when the Lord descends. Samyak uktaha tam pradakshini kritya. So he was uh, given such clear instructions. See, he was spoken to in fullness. Samuditaha. He was spoken to in fullness. Tam pradakshini kritya. He circumambulated, Kardamani circumambulated Lord Kapila. Going to the forest is compulsory for everyone. It is not a mental excursion upon which one person goes and another does not go. Everyone should go to the forest at least as a vanaprastha. Forest going means to take 100% shelter of the Supreme Lord, as explained by Prahlad Maharaj in his talks with his father. Sada samudvigna dhyaha. Bhagavatam 7.5.5. People who have accepted a temporary material body are always full of anxieties. One should therefore not be very much affected by his material body, but should try to be freed. The preliminary process to become free is to go to the forest or give up family relationships and exclusively engage in Krishna consciousness. That is the purpose of going to the forest. Otherwise, the forest is only a place of monkeys and wild animals. To go to the forest does not mean to become a monkey or a ferocious animal. It means to accept exclusively the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage oneself in full service. One does not actually have to go to the forest. At the present moment, that means one does not literally have to go to a wild forest area, either a natural forest or a forest plantation. The present moment, this is not at all advisable for a man who has spent his life all along in big cities. Anyway, he cannot handle it. Even if he goes to the forest, he can handle it only for 3 or 4 hours. As explained by Prahlad Maharaj, Hitvatmapatam Grihamandhakrupam, one should not remain always engaged in the responsibilities of family life because family life without Krishna consciousness is just like a blind well, alone in a field. If one falls into a blind well and no one is there to save him, he may cry for years and no one will see or hear where the crying is coming from. Death is sure. Similarly, those who are forgetful of their eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord are in the blind well of family life. That position is very ominous, extremely dangerous. Prahlad Maharaj advised that one should give up this well somehow or other and take to Krishna consciousness and thus be freed from material entanglement, which is full of anxieties. Out of sight, out of mind. Prabhupada compared sannyas to artificial swimming because there were at one time within ISKCON there was a big quarrel between the Grihasthas and the sannyasis. And when the matter came to Prabhupada, the Grihasthas, one of the complaints was these people are not actually detached. They have so many material desires in their minds. And Prabhupada said it is artificial swimming. So just like when they train in swimming, first of all, they put you in a swimming pool. They make arrangements that you don't drown. So sannyas is like that. You're trained in that manner. Then eventually one will become a Parivrajika, Paramahamsa. Step by step. 42. Vratam sa astito maunam. Atmaik sharno munihi. Nissango vyasarat kshonim. Anagnir aniketanaha. The sage Kardama accepted silence as a vow in order to think of the Supreme Personality of God and take shelter of Him exclusively. Without association, he traveled over the surface of the globe as a sannyasi, devoid of any relationship with fire or shelter. Here the words Anagnir Aniketanaha are very significant. Anagnihi, without fire. Aniketanaha, without shelter. Actually, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan has explained the Vedic injunction Atiti Devo Bhava to refer to this person. The person who has no residential shelter. He is the literal Atiti that we are advised to worship as Lord Narayan in the Vedas. Ramaya Ratnavali. It also comes in Govinda worship. A sannyasi should be completely detached from fire and any residential quarters. The Grihastha has a relationship with fire, either for offering sacrifices or for cooking, but a sannyasi is freed from these two responsibilities. He does not have to cook or offer fire for sacrifice because he is always engaged in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, he has already accomplished all ritualistic performances of religion. Aniketanaha means without lodging. He should not have his own house, but should depend completely on the Supreme Lord for his food and lodging. He should travel. So even if he apparently seems to have a house, that should be absolutely no private space, basically. Let me explain like this. No private space. Open book. Prabhupada had a so-called house in Vrindavan, but everybody could see what he was doing. Everybody could come, they could see, they could meet him, they could ask him questions. Prabhupada generally held his meetings with disciples. Generally, it was in that room itself where everybody met. That's how it was. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also had a place, but it was just, it's not no private space. What is this private space? Mauna means silence. Maunam. Maunam vratam saha astitaha. Kardama accepted the vow of silence. But the word mauna itself is derived from the word muni. The vow of a sage is called mauna. Muni sambandhi vratam, maunam vratam. But conventionally, it has come to mean silence. Unless one becomes silent, he cannot think completely about the pastimes and activities of the Lord. It is not that because one is a fool and cannot speak nicely, therefore takes the vow of mauna. Rather, one becomes silent so that people will not disturb him. This is a fact that when you minimize your communication, people.
When I go to home, people say anything at the scripts, and after some time they get bored and just go. I don't really speak at all. Just they get bored and they go.
Rather, one becomes silent so that people will not disturb him. It is said by Chanakya Pandit that a rascal appears very intelligent as long as he does not speak. But speaking is a test. The so-called silence of a silent impersonalist Swami indicates that he has nothing to say. He simply wants to beg. But the silence adopted by Karna Muni was not like that. He became silent for relief from nonsensical talk. One is called the Muni when he remains grave and does not talk nonsense. Vacho Vegam, that's also first, the urge to communicate. There was somebody who took a vow of silence, but he would always write.
No, this is not.
That is not Mauna. Mauna means
Yeah.
you stop Vacho Vegam, no communication. The people will die rather than not talk.
So therefore the option is given of talking or question. In
That is
the instruction.
That is the only thing that's allowed. Yes, Prabhu.
So how this grave one can attain?
How
Grave.
this what?
Graveness.
How this?
Grave. How one can become grave person?
How one can become grave? I think if we submissively associate with those who are grave, then Krishna will also make us grave. We should not make the grave persons non-grave. That is also there. It'll come. At some point, we begin to understand that these things are simply a waste of time.
Yes.
One is called the Muni when he remains grave and does not talk nonsense. Maharaj Ambarish set a very good example. Whenever he spoke about the pastimes of the Lord. Mauna necessitates refraining from nonsensical talking and engaging the talking facility in the pastimes of the Lord. In that way, one can chant and hear about the Lord in order to perfect his life. Vratam means that one should take a vow, as explained in Bhagavad Gita. Amanitvam, madambhitvam, without hankering for personal respect, and without being proud of one's material position. Ahimsa means not being violent. There are 18 processes for attaining knowledge and perfection. And by his vow, Karza Muni adopted all the principles of self-realization. So he took a vow to fulfill the process of jnana as taught in Bhagavad Gita, beginning with amanitvam, adambitvam. That's a whole list of items. Etad jnanam iti proktam. Lord Krishna says, this is jnana. Ajnanam anyatonyatha. Yadatonyatha. Everything else is ajnana. 43. Mano brahmani yunjano yat tat saddasatah param gunavabhase viguna eka bhaktya anubhavite. He fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Param Brahman, who is beyond cause and effect, who manifests the three modes of material nature, who is beyond those three modes, and who is perceived only through unfailing devotional service. Yat sad asataha bhadra bhadra vyavaharika vastunaha param tasmad atitam tat manaha brahmani yunjanaha. He was fixing his mind on the Supreme Brahman. That Supreme Brahman is beyond the auspicious and the inauspicious. Saddasata, he is interpreting it as auspicious and the way it's clear. So he fixed his mind on that Brahman. Which Brahman? Idrishe Gunanam Saundaryadi Madhurya Ishwarya Rupanam Chinmayanam Avabhasaha Prakashaha Yatra. That Brahman who reveals various qualities, qualities such as beauty, qualities which are fully spiritual, his sweetness, his opulences, the various forms which exhibit various qualities. Tasmin vigune, vigata prakrita gune, and which do not, and in whom there are no material qualities. Eka bhaktya, avyabhicharinya, bhaktya eva, anubhavite, netradi sarvendriya anubhava gocharatam prapite. And when one exclusively engages in bhakti, unadulterated bhakti, only then do all of these qualities and so on, all of them come within the range of the perception of his eyes and other senses, who is perceived only through unfailing devotional service. Unfailing devotional service, we come across this in Bhagavad Gita. Factually speaking, to have a thorough understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam, one should have a good understanding of Bhagavad Gita. Our first step is to obey Bhagavad Gita. Second step is to obey Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Third step is to obey Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. Question.
So in the previous part, we read that Karda Muni was engaging in the 18 processes of jnana as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. But here we see that he is engaging in Eka Bhakti also. So the elements of jnana and elements of bhakti. So what he was actually engaging in, whether in smaranam, that bhakti, or jnana.
See, if you look at Baladev Vidyabhushana Prabhu's explanation of these items of jnana, they are fully pure devotional service only. Because ultimately, all the restrictions and the mature features of a jnani are found in a yogi. And all the restrictions and the mature features of a yogi are found in a bhakta. So here it must be in the higher sense. Prabhupada's own explanation in Bhagavad Gita of these items of knowledge, they are compatible with pure devotional service to Krishna. It is a question of how we interpret it. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his Bhagavad Gita commentary, interprets the last 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, except the final conclusion, in terms of Jnana Yoga itself. Whereas Baladev Vidyabhushana explains it uh, in terms of all the features of general knowledge that are meant for all types of bhaktas, Swanishta bhaktas, Paranishita bhaktas, Nirapeksha bhaktas. It is a general knowledge. And Krishna has intentionally spoken the Bhagavad Gita in such a manner that it could be understood in both ways. Whenever there is bhakti, there must be 3 things present: the devotee, the devotion, and the Lord. Without these 3, Bhakta, Bhakti, and Bhagavan, there is no meaning to the word bhakti. Gautam Muni fixed his mind on the Supreme Brahman and realized him through bhakti or devotion service. This indicates that he fixed his mind on the personal feature of the Lord, because bhakti cannot be executed unless one has realization of the personal feature of the absolute truth. The bhakti pareshanubhavo viraktiranyatra is there at each level, even though there are 14 stages, or there are 9 stages according to Rupa Goswami. At every stage there has to be bhakti, pareshanubhavaha, and viraktihi anyatracha. Without that, we will not be able to move up to the next level in any genuine manner. So the lower level of pareshanubhava and viraktir anyatracha, they impel one to increase his bhakti. Gunava bhase is beyond the 3 modes of material nature, but it is due to him that the 3 modes of material nature are manifested. In other words, although the material energy is an emanation of the Supreme Lord, he is not affected as we are by the modes of material nature. We are conditioned souls, but he is not affected. Although the material nature has emanated from him, he is a supreme living entity and is never affected by Maya, but we are subordinate, minute living entities, prone to be affected by the limitations of Maya. If he is in constant contact with the Supreme Lord by devotional service, the conditioned living entity also becomes freed from the infection of Maya. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Sagunan samatitya etan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. A person engaged in Krishna consciousness is once liberated from the influence of the 3 modes of material nature. In other words, once the conditioned soul engages himself in devotional service, he also becomes liberated like the Lord. 44. Nirahankritir nirmamascha nirdvandvas samadrik swadrik pratyak prashantanshir dhira prashantor mir ivodadih. Thus he gradually became unaffected by the false ego of material identity and became free from material affection. Undisturbed, equal to everyone, and without duality, he could indeed see himself also. His mind was turned inward and was perfectly calm like an ocean, unagitated by waves. ततः च व्यवहारिके सर्ववस्तुनि निरहंकृतिः इत्यादि. And with regard to the external world, everything pertaining to the external world, he exhibited these features. Nirahankritihi, etc. Without false ego, without material affection, without duality, seeing everything equally. He was able to see himself as distinct from the external world. Pratyak prashantadhi, his mind turned inward and was perfectly composed. He was sober, not disturbed, like an ocean whose waves have become calm. Swasminneva bhaktihi kiyati abhut bhavati bhavishyati iti drishtihi yasya saha. Swadrik. Swadrik, very interesting. Swadrik means seeing oneself, and it means being introspective. In English, we have the word introspective, that you observe yourself. So he was only considering, how much of bhakti have I attained so far? How much more should I attain? What I need to attain, and so on. Swasminneva bhaktihi kiyati abhut. How much has come? How much has come in the past? What is it like now? And how much will it be? This is a very good point. Shadbhir bhakti vinashyati, shadbhir bhakti prasiddhyati. So based on that, we should also be thinking like that. Should keep checking whether we are progressing or regressing. or frozen. Should keep considering all these things. In India, these things are considered very important. Drik, drishtihi yasya saha. Pratyak, bahirvritti rahita, ateva prashanta dhihi yasya saha. His intelligence was not extending to the external world, and therefore it was peaceful. These are all distinctly values in Vedic civilization. In Vedic civilization, the whole idea is to become self-realized and then to become God-realized. We have to follow Ramanujacharya's method of explanation. First, we realize we are not this subtle body, we are not this gross body, then subtle body, then we realize that we are Atma, and then finally we realize the Supreme Lord who is inside the Atma. So the entire gaze, which is now currently outward, goes inside, inside, inside. When one's mind is in full Krishna consciousness and one fully engages in rendering devotion service to the Lord, he becomes just like an ocean, unagitated by waves. This very example is also cited in Bhagavad Gita. One should become like the ocean. The ocean is filled by many thousands of rivers, and millions of tons of its water evaporates into clouds. Yet the ocean is the same unagitated ocean. The laws of nature may work, but if one is fixed in devotion service to the lotus feet, at the lotus feet of the Lord, he is not agitated, or he is introspective. He does not look outside to material nature, but he looks in to the spiritual nature of his existence. With a sober mind, he simply engages in the service of the Lord. Thus, he realizes his own self without false identification with matter and without affection for material possessions. Such a great devotee is never in trouble with others because he sees everyone from the platform of spiritual understanding. That means he never puts anyone else in trouble. Others may try to put him in trouble, but he does not put anyone in trouble. He sees himself and others in the right perspective. 45. Vasudeve Bhagavati Sarvagye Pratyagatmani Parena Bhakti Bhavena Labdhatma Mukta Bandhanaha. He thus became liberated from conditioned life and became self-situated in transcendental devotional service to the personality of Godhead Vasudeva, the omniscient super soul within everyone. एतावत् अद्भुत स्वभावत्वं तस्य सहसा एव कथमभूत्. Such a wonderful nature. How did it suddenly come about? Tatraha, anticipating this, this verse is spoken. Vasudevi Pratichaha Jivasya Pratyak Atmani. Pratichaha Jivasya Atmani Bhakti Bhavena Bhajana Utthena Bhavena Parena Shreshthena Premna Hetuna Linga Dehana Ashat Nashtaha Api Punaha Labdha Atmanaha Chitta Manobuddhi Adeha Prakrita Yenasam. Because of devotion to the soul of the Jiva. The soul of the Jiva is the Supreme Lord. With feeling of a very high grade, with love of Godhead. And because of that, even though his subtle body had been destroyed, again he regained them in their spiritual versions. The Chitta, the Manas, the Buddhi, and so on. They are now aprakrita, transcendental. Nanu purvad ami api bandha hetavaha bhavanti. But like in the past, don't these forms of consciousness, mind, intelligence, and so on, are they not causes for bondage? Tatraha mukta bandhanaha. No. Liberated from material bondage. He is liberated from material bondage. Anavriti shabdaditi nyaya. Because in the Vedanta Sutra it is stated that once you come to the point of full-fledged freedom from material existence, you don't get back. You don't fall back. It is fully based on deliberations of Shaksandarbha and Krivasandarbha. When one engages in the transcendental devotion service of the Lord, one becomes aware that his constitutional position as an individual soul is to be eternally a servitor of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Self-realization does not mean that because the Supreme Soul and the individual soul are both souls, they are equal in every respect. The individual soul is prone to be conditioned, and the Supreme Soul is never conditioned. When the conditioned soul realizes that he is subordinate to the Supreme Soul, this position is called Labdhatma, self-realization, or Muktabandhanaha. Labdhatma, Muktabandhanaha. Self-realization or Mukta Bandhana, freedom from material contamination. Material contamination continues as long as one thinks that he is as good as the Supreme Lord or is equal with him. This condition is the last snare of Maya. Maya always influences the conditioned soul. Even after much meditation and speculation, if one continues to think himself one with the Supreme Lord, it is to be understood that he is still in the last snares of the spell of Maya. The word Parena is very significant. Para means transcendental, untinged by material contamination. Full consciousness that one is an eternal servant of the Lord is called Parabhakti. That's why it is said here. Parena Shresthena Premna Hetuna. Parena Bhavena. To ecstatic feelings which have come from devotional service, which are of the first grade. If one has any identification with material things and executes devotional service for attainment of some material gain, that is Vidha Bhakti, contaminated Bhakti. One can actually become liberated by execution of Parabhakti. Parabhakti is transcendental Bhakti. Another word. See, this Parabhakti is what comes in Brahmabhuta Prasannatma Nashochati Nakanchati Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. So this is that Parabhakti. And then Bhaktiya Mam Abhijanati. So that Bhaktiya means Paraya Bhaktiya Mam Abhijanati. Abhijanati. Completely understands. Abhi means completely. Abhijanati Yavan Yaschasmi Tattvataha. To the extent that I am. Vishnu Chakravarti has remarked that even though the Supreme Lord is unlimited, he's still talking Yavan, as much as I am, because to that devotee he has come under his affectionate control. Tato man tatuto yatva vishate tadanantaram. Afterwards, he enters into the spiritual realm. Another word mentioned here is Sarvagye. Sarvagye. Vasudeva, Bhagavati, Sarvagye. The super soul sitting within the heart is all cognizant. He knows I may forget my past activities due to the change of body. But because the Supreme Lord as Paramatma is sitting within me, he knows everything. Therefore, the result of my past karma or past activities is awarded to me. I may forget, but he awards me suffering or enjoyment for the misdeeds or good deeds of my past life. One should not think that he is freed from reaction because he has forgotten the actions of his past life. Reactions will take place. And what kind of reactions there will be is judged by the super soul, the witness. 46. Atmanam sarvabhuteshu bhagavantam avasthitam apashyat sarvabhutani bhagavatyapi chatmani. He began to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart, and that everyone is existing on him because he is the super soul of everyone. Bhakti atishayena labdha atmakatvam eva pratipadayati. Due to excessive devotion service to the Lord, he has attained his spiritual nature. Now that is established in the current verse. Atmanam, super soul. Atma atra paramatma. But why am I looking at this? Should look at this. Tataha cha tasya bhagavat sakshatkaraha abhut ityaha. And then he attained bhagavat sakshatkara. He attains direct experience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sakshatkara means unmediated experience. Currently, our experience of the Supreme Lord is mediated through theoretical knowledge of Shastra. That is called Paroksha Gyan, indirect knowledge. Sakshatkara refers to Aparoksha Gyan, direct direct perception, realization. Ityaha. That is now stated in the current verse. Atmanam sarvantaryaminam tritiya purusham shirodashayinam ityarthaha. So here the super soul, or the supreme personality of Godhead, seated in everyone's heart. That refers to the third Purusha avatar, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. Bhagavantam tammeva swa ishtadevam shuklam chaturbhujam apashyat. And he realized that he is the same as his worshipable deity, worshipable form, Vishnu Tattva form. Amongst some Vaishnavas, that is the expression Ishtamurti. Ishtamurti means a particular form of Vishnu Tattva, whom you are very attracted to. So Ishtadeva refers to Ishtamurti. Shuklam, four-handed Shukla, the same Lord Shukla who had come to see him. Tatha Atmani. And he saw all the living creatures in the Super Soul. Prakriti Antaryamini, Prathama Purushe Karnarnava Shayini, Sarvabhutani, Tadiya Roma Kupagata, Shatakoti Brahmanda Sthani, Yogaja Netrena. What is this? Antri? Something is wrong. 46. What is Yogaja Netrena Atraiva Stitva Apashyat. Atraiva Stitva Apashyat. And then he saw all the living creatures within the millions of Brahmandas, within the pores, the hair pores of the Karnavishai Vishnu, the first Purushavatara, who is the super soul of the entire Prakriti. And this he saw through mystic vision. He was situated in one place. It's not that he traveled to all the universes and saw. He was in one place, but through mystic vision, he could see all of this. Tena dvitiya skandha uktat, krama muktat, yoginaha, sakashat, asya utkarsha uktaha. So it is then thus pointed out that he is more exalted than the yogi who gets liberated gradually, step by step, which was presented according to the process presented in this second canto. Sahi Brahmandhasta Sarva Vastu Drikshuhu Tatra Tatra Suladeham Yaksva Gakshati. Because that yogi who attains gradual liberation, he is desirous of seeing all the wonderful things within the Brahmanda. And he actually gives up his gross body and he goes to all of them. I am tu Atraiva Stitva. Whereas this Kardama Muni, he was situated in one place. Sarva Brahmanda Bahi Karanarnava Shayinam Tad Roma Kupeshu Sarva Bhutani Api Nishkamaha Eva Apashyat. Without having any passion for seeing anything, he saw all creatures, all that has been created. He saw within the hair folds of the Karnarnava Shayi Vishnu, who is actually outside of all the Brahmandas. Bhagavati apicha iti tam eva atmanam swa ishtadevam shuklam bhagavantam apashyat. He also saw Lord Shukla, Bhagavan, is Ishtamurti. Tasminapi sarvabhutani Shri Krishna Yashoda Iva apashyat. So just like Shri Yashoda saw all the living creatures within Shri Krishna, like that he saw everything within Bhagavan Shukla Vishnu. Aishwarya upasake Shri Kardame Tadrik Aishwarya Darshanam Uchitameva iti geya. It should be understood that that kind of a vision of the opulences is appropriate for Shri Kardama, who was worshipping the Supreme Lord in his opulent feature. It was very frightening. You have to see all the universes, everything, some kind of a mega demonstration, not demonstration, reality.
Everybody has to say. I'm asking a question. This is a question.
I always thought that if I were to see the first Purusha avatar, I'll find he's so gigantic. And he's got thousands of hands, feet. It's all spiritual. It's all spiritual, beyond matter completely. How they are so happy, but he's the same Lord. Must be so affectionate for them. That everyone is existing on the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not mean that everyone is also Godhead. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. Everything is resting on Him, the Supreme Lord, but that does not mean that the Supreme Lord is also everywhere. This mysterious position has to be understood by highly advanced devotees. There are three kinds of devotees: the neophyte devotee, the intermediate devotee, and the advanced devotee. The neophyte devotee does not understand the techniques of devotional service, but simply offers devotional service to the deity and the temple. See, the neophyte devotee is interested in Lord Vishnu. Third class Vaishnava means he's first of all interested in Vishnu, to make Vishnu happy. He hasn't understood how to make the Vaishnavas happy without compromising his endeavors to make Vishnu happy. That we learn when we progress to the status of a Madhyama Vaishnava. The intermediate devotee understands who God is, who is a devotee, who is a non-devotee, and who is innocent. And he deals with such persons differently. But a person who sees that the Lord is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and that everything is depending or existing on the transcendental energy of the Supreme Lord, is in the highest devotional position. And this person has love for the Supreme Lord. Vishnu Chakravarti has commented on that 11th canto verse. Ishvare Tarujineshu, and so on. So there he points out that even the Uttama Vaishnava also knows about these four categories. But there is some distinction between the second class devotee and first class devotee, even though both of them know this distinction between these four. The first class devotee has love for the Supreme Lord. He has love for the Supreme Lord. Overwhelming love for the Supreme Lord. 47. इच्छाद्वेष विहीनेन सर्वत्र समचेतसा भगवद भक्ति युक्तेन प्राप्ता भागवती गतिः. Freed from all hatred and desire, Kardamuni, being equal to everyone because of discharging uncontaminating devotional service, ultimately attained the path back to God. Ultimately, he attained, the destination of the devotee was attained by him. Going back to Godhead. Sarvatra jagati heyatva ichhadvesha vihinena tasmadeva heto samachetasa. He was freed from all hatred and desire. Sarvatra jagati heyatva, because they are meant to be given up according to everyone in the world. Everyone progressive, obviously, not anyone regressive. Oh, okay. Sarvatra jagati heyatva, because everything in the universe is actually unfit because of him. Ichhadvesha vihinena, and he was devoid of desires and hatred. Tasmadeva hetu, and for that very reason, samachetasa, being in equal consciousness. Kardamena, Bhagavati, Bhagavat Pashatatva Lakshanagatihi Prapta. He attained the destination, which is characterized as being an associate of Bhagavan. Bhagavatim Gatim Praptaha iti Pathe Samachetasa Yuktaha Kardamaha. Bhagavatim Gatim. That is another reading. In which case, the meaning is practically the same. Kardamani, endowed with an equal mind, he attained the destination of Bhagavati Gati, which is to become an associate of the Supreme Lord. Okay, question, and then we'll stop.
Prabhuji, Uttam Adhikari devotee, he like Kanishta is interested in making Lord happy only. Madhyam is interested in making devotees happy and Lord happy. And if we go in same line, is there any such symptom for Uttam also, that he wants to make devotees happy, Lord happy, and something else?
No.
Oh.
All the good features of the Madhyama Vaishnava are found in the Uttama Vaishnava, but additionally, he has love of Godhead, which reveals full reality. Madhyama Vaishnava does not have love of Godhead. He does not have a complete vision of everything. He is just following Shastra, that's all. Whereas the Uttama Vaishnava has unmediated experience of Godhead. So that is the distinction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, bro.
We'll stop with that. Vanshakalpatarubhyasya kripasinubhyascha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo.